All right, here we go. Beautiful people, welcome back to another episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Follow me on those socials at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Some love to the partners, Jocko Fuel, clean fuel without compromise. Mad Rabbit, Tattoo Aftercare, be bold, be you. Use promo code Reyes Reflection for a discount at checkout. And Arave Cards, completing sets one card at a time. Check out their eBay and Facebook page to get yourself going on your Pokemon card collection today. Now, introduction time for my next guest. She is a fantastic singer-songwriter who had a great run on season 24 of The Voice, lived in a van for a year, which I can't wait to talk about that. She has an EP out available everywhere, and she lives life to the fullest. So I think we're going to do well on this show because we both kind of have that mantra of life. So without further ado, the amazing Alexa Wildish, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I really appreciate you doing this, taking some time out of your day. I know you're muscling through your COVID to power through on this show, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling much better though, thankfully.
Yes, and we're gonna do great on this interview. You're gonna power through it, and we're gonna have fun. So I want to learn a little bit about you. You lived in a van for a year. That's my dream, to live in a van. So what was that like?
It was mystical and magical, and it was a really amazing synchronistic thing that happened in my life. I was right after our 2020, I moved to Nashville and I locked down for a while along with everyone else. And then after things kind of settled up, I went to Guatemala and spent a month there working remotely. And then after that, I started traveling just all over. And at that point, I was just living out of my car. And I just asked, I kept being like, man, it'd be so cool to have a van. But I'm like, it's expensive to buy a van. So I wasn't thinking about it too much. I was just like, it'd be really cool. So I was saying it at all my shows, I'm going to have a van. I'm going to have a van at some point. I'm just playing shows all over because I was just couch surfing and staying in friends' places. And then it just synchronistically worked out that a very dear friend of mine had a van and was moving to a place where he could not keep the van. And was like, you can use it in the interim, and eventually I've got to sell it, but you're welcome to use it. So I lived in it for about a year, and it was, I was in and out of it. During the winter times, I wasn't as living in it because it was more chilly, and I just was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to take this anywhere. But I went on some amazing excursions, did the most amazing things, and man, it was amazing getting to wake up. What a gift, just getting to wake up as nature as my backyard, that to me really created that intimacy with nature that I need. So yeah, it was powerful.
And that's my dream. Like I've said, I've always said that when I retire, I want to be able to just have a van, drive all over, and just experience the world and waking up with nature and that fresh air and just being one with the earth at that moment in time. And I think that that's something that is lacking, especially in today's world of social media and things like that. I think we have a hard time being bored or even just enjoying things that are simple in a way. And I think nature has a way of being so simple yet so complex because even myself, I look at a tree and I'll sit there and I go, look at that beautiful tree. But each and every single branch is different. And it's so if you think about the intricacies of all that, it's very complex, but it's also simple at the same time. So I'm a big nature dude. So that is my dream. I hope to get there at some point in my life. But I will get there. I'll get there.
You will. You will. I was just like, how's this going to happen? I think I was living in a really special, I was just really open and free and surrendered to wherever life wanted to take me. And so I was just like, I need a van. I need a van. I just kept saying it all the time. And I recognized that was very synchronistic and a very big gift that my friend offered me. But yeah, it changed my life. At that year was really impactful for me. So I'm grateful for it.
A lot of my social media feed at one point was the algorithm was people that would convert buses and vans into little houses.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible. That does sound incredible. So you lived in a van, but you grew up in a musical family. I think I read something that your father collected vintage guitars.
Yeah.
In kind of a loaded way, because I know that this is kind of a hard way to kind of pinpoint down a particular answer. What was your upbringing like? What was that relationship with your family of music and how it has gotten you to where you are today?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so I'm the youngest of three. I have two older brothers, and there's quite a bit age gap between me and my oldest brother, 9 years. So like I grew up kind of like watching them do music and like be involved in it and play guitar. I didn't touch guitar until I was, quite a bit older. I started with mandolin first, but that's a whole other side story. But I think I was singing a lot growing up, and I was watching my brothers and my dad play guitar, and I was always curious about it. And I like would pick it up sometimes, like this is too big for me, and I would just like put it aside. But I was always like involved in the music somehow, and I studied musical theater growing up and opera growing up. So I was kind of like the singer of the family. My mom also sang too, so it was like very very much like music was always a huge part of our family. And growing up with amazing, beautiful guitars like near me was amazing. But I sort of have some regret around like not becoming like a guitarist until quite a bit later, but that's just how life happened.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for it for sure.
I tried to pick up the guitar and I played for a little bit, the acoustic guitar. I played for a little bit, but I was not well. It's hard to understand the I got to move my fingers at the same time. I just don't know if my brain works that way. I love it and I appreciate it.
It's hard.
It is.
It's a hard instrument. No one tells you that. That's like my fingers. Well, starting with mandolin felt a little bit easier because I was like in a smaller container. But then I eventually went to octave mandolin, and that's the size of a guitar. So I was like, I can do this. And I picked up guitar, and I was like, it's amazing. So I had my own way of navigating the guitar world. But still to this day, I'm still like amazed by guitar. I think it's such a cool thing. And how did I not do it? I mean, now I'm like so in it, but it took me so long to get to that point.
When you say I'm sorry, mandolin, is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the other one? Octa.
Octave mandolin. So basically, it's not as well known of as it's starting to get more interest now. Sarah Jarosz is an amazing Americana artist that kind of like primarily plays octave mandolin or plays a lot of octave mandolin. And so that kind of drew me to that quality. But basically, it's a mandolin, which I'm sure you know what that looks like. It's a tiny little Celtic sounding instrument that people riff on, and it's very high pitched sounding.
Okay.
So I started on mandolin, but my voice is also high. So there was a period of time where a dear songwriter friend of mine was like, actually, I have an octave mandolin. Are you interested in trying it out? And so I was like borrowing it regularly, and I was like, oh, this is a lower instrument.
Yeah.
It's an octave lower than the mandolin. So it creates that Celtic sound that I love, but it also like it sounds more like a bouzouki or something a little bit richer than a mandolin that's so high and high pitch point. So I love it. I'm obsessed with it right now.
You talked about how you had two older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Are they in music as well, or is this just something that you've taken on as a career?
Well, actually, one of my brothers is a full-time musician, and he plays all around Orange County, California, and you could see him anywhere. Honestly, he's amazing. His name is Brandon Wildish, and he really is like good at playing. Like he's good at keeping the mood in a place alive, and like looping his guitar and doing all that, like keeping the energy of a place just so positive and beautiful. That honestly is like the grinding stuff that I've done before. I've sat and I've played cover songs for hours, and it's really hard. So I give my brother a lot of credit. But in a lot of ways, we do different things, but we're still in music.
Yeah. I agree with what you just said there, because how it's grind and a grind type of work, because I forget who I spoke to, but somebody said to me, they said, sometimes when you go to a restaurant, unfortunately, your background music, and you have to find a way to interact with the crowd to get, yes, pull their attention. And so, no, I think that's a really good point that you just brought up. So let's transition now into the voice.
Yeah.
When did that become a reality for you? When was this something that you were going to actively pursue?
Well, that's a good question, because in 2019, I actually did audition, and I made it past like 2 rounds. And at that point, they had a different audition experience. Like you do the video round first, and then they would call you into like a big city, and then you would go into the next round of casting. So I went to Portland, and I was all over the place, man. I was making my EP at that point, so I was like, it hadn't been released. I was really excited for it to come out, and it was like my first like really big juicy project that was like fully alive in me, and I was like, I really want this to be direct. And so I didn't get it, but I kind of was relieved because I was like, oh, I wouldn't be able to release my record. And at that point they were like, you're a country singer. And I was like, that's not exactly what I do. It's definitely an influence of mine, but I wouldn't consider myself like hardcore country. So thankfully over time, I've like started to really develop myself as an artist. It's taken me more years, but several years down the line after I did the whole van life thing, and once the van got sold, I was like, where am I going? What am I doing? And I was in Colorado and playing a bunch of shows, and I played a show for about 20 people. And I got done with that show, and I just like had this moment to myself where I was kind of crying. I was like, I feel like I really want to do this on a larger scale. Like I want somehow to sing for a lot of people at one time. And I was just like feeling that in myself. And then like 5 minutes later, I get a text that was like, do you want to audition for this season of The Voice? Because they had already known me. And I was like, yeah. And then after I said, yeah, I was like, what does that mean? Oh no, what did I agree to? And then you saw that journey unfold, but I was really nervous about it. And it ultimately ended up being a really big gift for me. So I think that's how it goes.
That's very interesting how you said, I really want to go from a smaller scale to a much larger scale. So how about 20 people to national television?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get much bigger than that. I really don't. That's really cool though.
It was nuts, man. Just going and singing on national television. I was like, where like there's a moment in my blind audition where Gwen kind of calls out. She's like, you're looking around like, oh my God, I'm on The Voice. And I was like, that's how I felt. I was like, how did I end up here? But it was quite the journey. I've learned so much from my time on The Voice, and I'm really grateful it happened at this time and not sooner.
It's very, I don't, is serendipity the word I'm thinking about? It's just very, everything's supposed to happen the way that's supposed to happen. And so
Yeah.
the fact that you were able to find yourself a little bit more, but also find as an artist and as a person, I think helped show, and it definitely did during The Voice, because you talked about it. You know, I'll just go over some of the notes that I have about your blind audition and stuff. Before you even went on stage, you were talking about how like emotions were so important to you, and it showed while you were tearing up on your blind audition, which I think is just really, really special. And I think a lot of people would be afraid to show that vulnerability, but I think it's refreshing in a way to see you do the counter opposite of embracing it. Because I think even myself, I'll own up to it. I'm the first to say, oh, I'm not sad. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. You know, and you kind of put those emotions aside, but then you never process it, and then it becomes hardened, and then now you don't know how to help other people when they're so it's all a trickle down effect. It all interlocks with one another. But your blind audition was really, really moving because you were able to show that you were singing and you were tearing up, but you were proud about it. And it was something that you were just, this is me, world. This is who I am. You sang the song Songbird by Fleetwood Mac. Why did you choose that song?
You know, I actually auditioned with it for my video audition too. We put together I sang Levitating by Dua Lipa, which is like, sounds like so random. And I sang Songbird for my original audition. And I also put together a bunch of video footage from me playing my live shows and my own music. So it was kind of this whole package that I put together and said, like, this is who I am as an artist. And then when we got to choose our song for our audition, like they gave us a list of 800 songs, and both Songbird and Levitating were on there. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'd love to put them on there. And when they picked Songbird for me, I was like floored. I started crying. I was like, if this is the one song that I get to sing on national television, because you don't know how far you're going to make it. Like, is anyone going to turn their chairs? No idea. But I was like, if this is the one song, then I would be pleased with it. And I would feel like a sense of like deep spiritual connection to it. And the more I like sat with the song over the next month, after knowing that that was the song I was going to pick, I was like, it's literally the epitome of like universal love and connection, and something that we so deeply need at this time, like to be seen in our vulnerability. Um, and I couldn't imagine a better song to like say hello to the world with. And yeah, it felt really, really amazing to get to have that opportunity. And I'm so glad they picked Songbird and that I picked it too, you know?
And you did a fantastic job. 4-chair turn.
Thank you.
Niall said he was going to propose to you, and a lot of back and forth between the coaches. Why did you, why did you choose Niall ultimately?
Oh my gosh, you know, they cut out a lot of the footage of like what people were saying. Honestly, Niall was really pushing the songwriter in me. Like he was really talking a lot about that. He was really pushing for me. And so was John. Like they were like fighting for me. And I felt like this sense of like, I feel like if I'm gonna have someone that is my coach and is gonna choose me for future rounds, like I mean, I wasn't honestly thinking about it this hard. It was just more of like a gut feeling in the moment where it was like Niall felt right. It felt like he was the one that was in alignment with me. Um, and ultimately, I was really glad to have made that choice. Niall is an incredible person, a really great coach, and honestly, like has helped me see myself a little better as an artist and like what I have to offer. And it feels like we align in a lot of ways musically of like what we like. And so it was really nice to have that like camaraderie with Niall. And man, he's just a great person. So really glad that worked out.
It seemed to have gone well for you because he does love that singer-songwriter in his
Yeah.
artist. Next round, you battled Lavender. You sang Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish. Gwen even said you're from another planet. What was that like coming from someone like Gwen Stefani?
That was wild to me. I was like, Gwen, what are you talking about here? But she yeah, I think was basically saying like there's a nostalgic quality to how I sing, and I think part of that is like I'm not really doing a pop thing. I'm not really doing a folk thing. I'm just like singing as I'm singing, and it's kind of it's just how I sing, and I think that's I'm not really doing anything to affect the tone or like change it. And so I think it like airs from a different time in that way because there wasn't really like a an overall stylistic choice that was influencing singers. You know, it's very much like this is how I sing. I mean, she has a way of singing that it has influenced millions of people on how they sing. And for me, I'm like, it's just this is just my voice. This is what I sound like. So that was really honoring in a lot of ways for her to say that.
Because it's so natural. You're not
Thank
doing
you.
anything special. You're just being you. And
Yeah,
for her to say that, it has to be one of the best compliments.
huge.
Right. If somebody says that about you and you're being yourself, then at that point you're doing everything right.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt really validating because everything I wanted, what's so funny about it, it's now like one of my favorite songs, but I hadn't really like delved into it. I may have heard it once or twice, but it wasn't like in my world of song. Like that's just not who I was listening to. And being put with Lavender, I was like, oh, this is like a big pop song. It's definitely in her alley. And I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. But then I just like I think it gave me an edge in that way because now I was able to reinterpret it like not having it in my head. It was kind of like, oh, this is beautiful. Now, how would I sing it? You know, without like any other influence. So that was a really cool experiment. And now I'm like, I'm obsessed with the song. I love it and love Billie Eilish. So grateful for that.
You won that round against Lavender. Then you went on to the 3-way knockouts where you faced Lennon and Julia. You made Winona cry, and you opened up about your relationship. And some would say that's really vulnerable to share a backstory like that.
Yeah.
Why is it essential for you as an artist to share some of those, purge out some of those stories into the ether of being like, no, this is who I am, and I'm okay with it. It's on my sleeve.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is in order for the audience to connect in some ways, there has to be that like human quality to you. And so for me, it was like this story of my first love is something that will always be with me and still is with me in so many ways. I'm like, this is a relationship that has changed my life. And for me, it was like more of like a celebration, but also a recognition that I can like I relate to these lyrics because it's like there is life after love. Like there is something that's beyond this, that like a way, like even if you think this is the person that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, like there's something else that can develop from it. And I've learned a lot of that in my relationships, but that one in particular was important for me to share, I think, because I wanted to like create a sense of humanity of like, listen, I'm just a person. So are you. You know, you've probably experienced this too.
I was just about to say that is one of the most relatable things as well. That every single person, I think a lot of people have experienced. I'll go out on a limb and say I think at least 9 out of 10 people have experienced some heartbreak with their first love. There's the high school sweethearts and they make it work. Good for them. But I think most people something happens, and so it's a very relatable story as well, which I think you were able to gravitate towards that, and you put it in your performance by singing "Believe." Then you're on to the playoffs, as Niall chose that you won that round,
Yeah.
where you sang "Fields of Gold"
Yes.
by
Yeah.
Sting.
Thing. Yeah.
You said that it was in honor of your grandmother. A person like myself who was very close with his grandfather, who unfortunately passed away, can you share that relationship with your grandmother and what it meant for you to sing that song in remembrance of her?
Yeah. I mean, when Niall picked that song for me, along with the music department, when I had first heard that they were picking that song, I didn't have it on my list, but I had sung it so many times. Like it was definitely a song that I knew and felt. But when that was chosen, I got full body chills because I was like, "Oh, this is a powerful song." And it felt really powerful for me because I had sung it for my grandmother's memorial. And I remember when I picked the song for her memorial service, and I've sung at a lot of services because somehow I can still sing while I'm crying. Like it happens. So there's there's a sense of like I'm able to do this. I'm able to show up for my grandmother like this. But on a stage that monumental, to get to what feels like I'm trying to like, sorry, my brain is all on multiple places, but this song to me feels like a declaration of like being loved, and like also like being willing to do what I need to do in this world without being scared of it. So like when I sang that song initially for my grandmother's passing, it was like this like beautiful tapestry of imagery that I'm singing. Like you'll remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. It's like basically to me like the presence of my grandmother like speaking through me through the wilderness, through the fields of gold, through the sunsets, like through all the things. Like you'll remember that. But then there's this other voice that's like, I never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken. But I swear in the days still left, we will walk in fields of gold. So it's almost like, even though I know that I haven't like fully lived up to what I said I was going to live up to, quote unquote, like I promise you that from this point on, I'm always going to do this. And so it felt like a big moment for me. It didn't really matter to me whether or not I made it to the lives. I know that that's going to sound really crazy, but like I knew that whatever was going to happen from that point on was going to be what I made that promise for. So it was like I'm making this promise to be seen, to share my gifts, to do it even though it scares me a lot. I'd rather hide sometimes, and I'd rather be like, no, I have too many feelings. But it's like, no, I'm just going to be in it, and I'm going to let myself be in it. And so to me, it was a very big declaration that I'm living in right now. So I'm scared of it when it's happening.
And I think you did exactly just that. I think you did a very good
Thank you.
job at displaying that on your time on the show. You mentioned,
Thank you.
unfortunately, it did end. Can you give some takeaways from the voice that is now helping you while you're continuing your music career post show?
Yeah, the fans, like the people that I've reached out to, or like that have reached out to me and that I've somehow like impacted, like I'm getting like life stories being sent to me. I'm getting like some of the most magnificently beautiful ways of speaking, and I'm just like, what an honor, to have like broken the veil somehow and like moved into a place where someone's like, I felt what you felt, and now I'm experiencing this change in my life. And I mean, that's the point of music anyways, in my mind. It's like there's a healing aspect to it, there's a connection aspect. So the voice has given me people that I literally like did a canary call. I was like, "Hey, I exist," and people are like, "I see you." And some people weren't gonna see me. It's okay. Like, not everybody has to be a fan of what I do, but those who are fans feel like lifelong fans, and they feel like people who are going to connect with me in a deep way for the rest of time. And I actually just received this. Let's see if I have it on. This necklace from a fan of mine at my last show with Lennon Vanderdoes. We did a show in Phoenix, and someone gave me this, and I was just like, this is, it's this like cohesiveness of like, I see you, I see what you're doing, and I support it, and I feel you as a human. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm also really excited to soon be releasing a cover EP of songs that I did on the show that it's not even like, it's just mind blowing to me. My producer has done such an amazing job of, and we've all done such a great job. The musicians are insane. It doesn't even feel like it was done on The Voice. Like they feel like new songs. And I'm just really excited about what this next chapter is going to be.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think you were incredible.
Thank you.
I'll do some burning questions while we wrap up, and then I'll have you plug in your socials. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for doing this. I know that you are doing this with South California having some of the worst floods, but you know you're powering through.
Thank you.
What is your favorite non-music related hobby?
My favorite non-music related hobby. I mean, honestly, like just being in nature. I know that kind of sounds funny, but like going on hikes, like things like that. Yeah, I also love, and it's not 100% non-music related, but I love to dance. I love to free dance.
Yeah.
I think it's really fun. I love cooking. I haven't been able to cook in a long time, but I love cooking new things. I love making soups. I think that's so much fun. Yeah, I'm interested in mushroom hunting. I think that's like a new thing that's coming up for me, like learning about different mushrooms, and I think that whole world, the mycelium network, is fascinating to me. So yeah, interested in that.
Cordyceps and all that, yeah.
Yeah, all of the medicinal aspects of these amazing little friends we've got.
Fungi, because they're fun guys. No, I'm just kidding.
They're fun guys, exactly.
Early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
Me too.
It's an issue sometimes.
What is your favorite dessert?
It's chocolate chip cookie.
Me too. Ooh, right there with you. Yes.
You can't beat a chocolate chip cookie.
No, and I'm a connoisseur. I will admit, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to chocolate chip cookies. Like I'm like, nope, it's too burnt on that end, and I'm a little harsh. I'll admit that I'm a little harsh with them.
You're harsh. That's funny. I'm like, give me any chocolate chip cookie anytime.
No, to me, I'm like, I need it. It needs to be soft baked. I don't want the too crunchy.
Yeah.
I'm a kind of a snob. I'll admit that.
That's funny.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
That's really hard. I don't like people talking during movies.
Well, I'm glad that you're joining the podcast, because you would not be able to watch a movie with me, because I would be the type that goes, "That's kind of cool, isn't it? Don't you?"
It's more the incessant talking.
Yes, yeah. It's like, hey, what'd you have for dinner last night, huh? Why don't you tell me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I want you to give me a number 1 through 6. I'm going to ask you a question based on whatever you give 1 through 6. Number.
Oh, a number 1 through 6?
Yeah.
5.
5. Okay. What is an unusual thing that you always bring on a camping trip or an outing?
Crystals.
Hey, you were ready though. You had a great answer. You were ready.
True.
Plug in your socials. Where can people find you, listen to you, follow you, all the projects that you talked about coming up? Tell the peeps where they can experience Alexa.
Okay, yeah. You can follow me on Spotify or Apple Music under Alexa Wildish. That would be really great, so you can hear my next EP coming out very soon. Definitely the place I'm most active is on Instagram at Alexa Wildish Music. I'm also on TikTok, still dipping my toes into that. I'm getting better at it. I promise it'll eventually get there, but you can follow me along on that journey. That's just Alexa Wildish. And then I'm pretty much on all of the socials. Some of them I'm a little bit quieter on, but yeah, if you just search my name, you'll easily find that. I would love for you to sign up for my mailing list, which you can find at alexawildish.com, and then you can get the real inside scoop, because I really only email you when I'm like, this is out, come see my show. So yeah.
Well, Alexa, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, joining me on the pod. You are now sworn in as a friend of the show. You were knighted.
Thank you. Thank you, friend.
It's a prestigious honor.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel the honor.
That is going to do it for this episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Follow the show, share the show, follow me on those socials at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Check out our wonderful sponsors, Arave Cards, Jocko Fuel, Mad Rabbit, and as always, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm Oprah, and I love you all.